Do you want to make six figures in tech and have a GI Bill? Here's how we can put those two together. Hey guys! Today I want to talk about how you can use your GI Bill to break into tech. I'm not going to go over any specific programs or any specific pathways of tech. I'm going to talk in a more general sense so that it applies to a variety of roles because they're not all built the same and the pathways are similar. Um, so I'm just going to tell you how you have to think and the questions that you should be asking for every role. So, what's the first step to breaking into tech using your GI Bill? So, first, you have to do some self discovery. And in tech, you should definitely understand discovery because you're going to be doing a lot of it. So, you have to pick a set of roles that you'd like to be your first role. You don't have to say that you're going to do cloud engineering or data analytics for the rest of your career. But hey, I want to do this role, this entry level role, and then you can aim towards that. And then once you're there, perhaps it is a good fit for you. Perhaps you're more interested in another problem. But don't think about it like you're committing to something for the next 20 years. Just think you're going to commit to growing the skill set and solving these kind of problems. And then if more roles open up later that are kind of different or have a different tech stack, that's okay. You can learn. You're having to do a lot of learning. So I suggest people just find something that you are interested in and that works with everything else in your life, and then you can aim towards that. And you can pick a set of roles that kind of make sense together for aiming. So like data analyst, business analyst can often be like interchangeable roles or at least have very overlapping skills. So find a role or a set of 3 to 4 roles that have a lot of overlapping skills. Don't try to do things that are on very opposite ends because then your learning curve is just going to be that much harder. So just pick one and go from there. Here's how you're going to determine what role you want. So if something interests you like data analytics, you should be doing some kind of projects like go on Kaggle, play with some data sets, clean up some data sets, and go from the process of getting a question to then solving the answer. There's a lot of public data. The Federal Reserve has a lot of economic data, and those projects can often be fun and play around with visualizing it, presenting it, even if it's just to nobody. It's just a question you were curious about. There's also a bunch of tutorials on Coursera on how to do this, but just find a tutorial if it's 8 hours, commit beginning to end. And then at the end, think, was that enjoyable? Was that not enjoyable? There's also a bunch of websites like Codedex and Capture the Flag, where you can capture the flag like a competition style thing for security. But you can definitely, there's a lot of beginner resources in the internet that are self-paced, and a lot of them are really, really free. So you should play with those for an amount of time. And you should see, hey, this interests me. Hey, this doesn't interest me. But you should really give yourself a time to learn what it is you're interested about before just jumping into something. Then you should do coffee chats. People that have something similar to you, reach out to them on LinkedIn, 15, 20 minutes, so they can tell you more about what the life is like on the role. Perhaps you really like security, but you don't like working under pressure. So working in a response team, maybe not for you, or maybe you discover that you actually really like it. If you like really collaborative things, maybe you want to do UX, UI, but if you really love seeing things towards the end, there's a lot of considerations of how people like to work. So when you get into these coffee chats, those are the kind of questions that you can ask and you can get answers from multiple people from different perspectives on how it actually comes together, because there's usually a pattern of how all these come together to put a role. Then, you should look at salary, where the job's usually based. For example, if you want to work like in data center management, they're kind of growing all over the country. So there's that. But if you want to do some more specific stuff, sometimes you should concentrate in a few cities. So think about it from that perspective. And some roles lend themselves more to being remote than others. But that's a changing landscape. So you should think about the role and the rest of your life, but be aware that the role is very fluid. Remote is a trend, then it stops being a trend, and it comes back. It's definitely fluid, and you want to be aware of that. But think generally, how does this role generally behave? Is this something that I really want and the problem I'm interested in? And if both of those things come true, then you move on to the next step. Pick an approved program and do your research. Your research should be thorough. You should have thought about a lot of things. Don't go for the first program that you see or the one with the best marketing materials. You should do your thorough research and have thought about all of the things that the program needs to do to fit you and to fit what you're aiming for. So let's say that you want to go into cloud engineering. You don't have to go for a program that has a degree, a certificate, or an associate's in cloud engineering. You don't have to do that. It can be general, and then they offer a lot of cloud electives, so that makes it make sense. You have to look at it from that perspective. Don't get sold just by the name. The name is nice and everything, but it's more about what you're learning. Because to reach any entry level role, you need to have learned a set of things. They're not going to teach you everything. They're going to teach you some theoretical and some practical, or if it's a boot camp, it's probably going to be more practical and less theoretical. But to succeed in a role, you do need to have a breadth of information, and that information is changing faster than the programs can adapt. So you're going to have to do a lot of self-learning, and that's okay. It kind of comes to the field. Self-learning is a huge part of what we do. So you have to see what works best and what fits. So how are you going to do your research? You should look at the roles and see the skills that you need to have for the role. And then you should look at the program and look at the elective offerings, the required classes, like look at the syllabi. Are they doing projects that are going to get you to some extent to fill the skills? You're not going to get 100%. I think that's an unrealistic expectation. But you do need to learn theory and you do need to learn some practice. Theory is good. Practice you can learn on your own. I think theory is harder to learn on your own, so you benefit more from that from an institution. But that's just my personal opinion. But you should know that you're going to need to learn an amount of theory, an amount of practice, and is the program giving you that 50% or that 60%, or are they only giving you 20% of what you actually need for the role? And you should be evaluating them like that, as like, what are you going to gain from this class, and what are the skills needed for the job, and see how far it gets, and then you can, based on that, decide if the program is a good fit for the role that you're aiming for. Another thing you should evaluate is if you want to work in something specific. Some people really want to work in gaming. Some people really want to work on like biomedical side stuff. A lot of universities have kind of a built-in pathway to certain industries and certain companies, and a lot of institutions just have those partnerships. How can you tell if that partnership exists? So, for example, are companies of this type consistently funding the career fair? Are they consistently doing resume reviews? Is there an office named after them in the institution? Are a lot of graduates from a specific program consistently ending up at roles in a certain industry? Then that tells you there's usually like a partnership or like a pathway. Another way you can tell is their recruiters. Where are they visiting during the recruiting cycle? Are they visiting a certain set of universities, a certain set of institutions? Are they going to boot camps? Do boot camps consistently post this recruiter coming in? You can usually tell partnerships by evaluating what is the career center posting and what is the recruiting site posting. And if you're not like interested in a specific company or a specific institution, you can usually just decide these 5 or 6 people, if they're behaving a certain way, I can expect the industry to behave in this particular way. So you have to find what you're interested in and then find what those people are doing. And one of the good things about GI Bill is that it's not institution specific. You're free to take your money or like your voucher where you want. So it should make sense for what you are aiming to do. How is the veteran support at that center? You can usually tell this by how staffed they are. Is it one person? Is it multiple people? Like how many veteran support staff per people? Are they outsourcing it? Is there a direct office? Is it a smaller institution? There's less veteran support. You should be evaluating that because if you have the GI Bill, you're part of a community, and that usually comes with a certain set of problems. And there's usually resources allocated for that, but you have to figure out what works in specific. Does the program that you're picking work with your life? The commute, if you're going to do in-person stuff, can you still attend events for networking? Are you going to be able to take full advantage of everything that the institution offers? So you have to evaluate, hey, is the program the type of program? Do they do a quarter system so that you're consistently having finals, and that means that you're really absent in the rest of your life? All of these things matter, and you should talk to students, talk to people who are doing it currently to see, hey, the reality of being here, does it fit with the rest of my life? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So you should just find something that fits the rest of your life. And what people are doing is usually what people are going to keep doing. So if you ask people how it's going, how the flow is going, you can expect that flow to remain the same. You should talk with new grad students and see how people are feeling about this particular program, because that'll give you a lot of insight that's a lot more time sensitive rather than somebody who graduated 5 years before or did it a while back, because things can change in between. So then you should maximize your benefits in a way that makes sense. Sometimes you get a book stipend. In the past, there was a way to get your boot camp funded. They have since removed that program, but it may come back. So you want to be up to date on all the benefits, educational benefits that you could be entitled to. But those change all the time, so I'm not going to cover them in this video because it did exist. It no longer exists. I'm not sure if they're going to do it again. But they're usually coming up with, because tech is a field that they want to push people into, so they've been coming up with ways to do that. So you want to do your research and see, hey, is there anything available that I could qualify for, scholarships or anything else? Because it's a good to reach out to those resources, but you have to do your research and see what you're eligible for at any given time. And then the fourth and the final step, and I think the most important step, is, hey, once you found your program, you've enrolled, you're going to need to do 3 major things. You're going to need to learn. There's a skill set that is needed for your entry level role in order to break in. It's just like a base skill set. You need to learn that skill set. It doesn't mean that you need to learn every language that's used for a thing, but you should be proficient in certain languages if you're trying to develop, or you should be proficient with a certain vendor of cloud if you're trying to go the cloud side. So you should have these skills and you need to learn them. If you see that in the degree path or like the planned path for the program that you picked right there, that's okay, and that's probably expected. Then you're just going to need to find online resources to learn it, or find a book or something else. The knowledge is out there. You just have to find and put it together and, do the program and all the extra learning that you have to do. You have to do more than just what's the curriculum, and you have to know what you're doing. So find online courses, because you actually really can learn and they're free, and you don't need to spend more money to learn more things, because the knowledge is just out there. But you should have a general understanding of what is going to be covered in the program, and I can reasonably expect to learn it there, and what are things that I just have to seek out and learn on my own. Then you have to network. If you want to break into tech, you have to network. Networking events. A lot of people really like the cloud competitions, the hackathons, capture the flags, datathons. There's usually some kind of competition for the field that you're trying to break into. So participating in those things is a great way to network, great way to meet people, and a great way to grow new skills. And these events are, a lot of them happen online and they're usually free. So take advantage, join, and then the third thing you have to do is you have to build. Whether if it's network engineering, then you can maybe think about building a home lab. If it's cybersecurity, you can try to play with exploits. Or if it's data, you can try some data visualization. But whatever you're doing, you should be building to build up your own portfolio. All portfolios for different industries look different, so I'm not gonna go into the specifics in this video of what your portfolio should look like. But you need to have a general expectation that there's a set of skills that you have to learn, and you need to meet that. Then you also have to do an amount of networking to get to know people in the industry, and then be aware of the newer opportunities that are not just random posts on LinkedIn. I'll cover more on this later. And then you also need to be building a portfolio so that when you get in front of people who are making hiring decisions, you can make a very clear case as to your skills. Because just going through a program is not necessarily an indication of your skills, but your portfolio is a great way to indicate where you are at and the kind of things that you're interested in and how you work. So having that portfolio, having those projects, being able to speak to the challenges, to the specifics, to the impact of a project are great. And I'll go more into how specifically you need to think about your projects and how to package them and how and how to network with your projects and show them and talk about them. But you need to be aware that in order for you to get the role, all those things need to happen. You need to learn, you need to network, and you need to build. And that's not just time in the program. So the program is not going to do everything for you, but it could really help you learn, and it could help guide you in building, and it could help guide you in networking. So when you pick something, you have to think about all these things. And then once you have all those three pillars, then it's just a matter of time before you're able to break into tech and begin your journey. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you got something out of it and it helps you think about breaking into tech and how you could put it together with your GI Bill. Thank you.